This episode's about audio. We can't use the in-camera mic. Come on. Good morning, everyone. Gajan here for another Henry's Calling the Shot. And in this episode, we're going to look at audio solutions for your video production. Now, before I get started, about 70% of you watching are not subscribed, so please do consider subscribing to the channel if you're into these kinds of tutorials, first looks, and reviews. Let's be honest, you'll put up with a YouTube video that doesn't have great video quality if the audio sounds good, but not the other way around. For this video, we're going to be using the Nikon Z6, which has quietly become this great mirrorless video capture solution. And while mirrorless has made leaps and bounds in terms of video capture, the audio capture has not kept up. So for this, we're going to look at three unique solutions: an on-camera shotgun, a lavalier system, and a professional off-camera boom solution. Let's get it started. We're now here at our first setup, and for this we're using an on-camera shotgun microphone. The reason you pick this up is because it's affordable, easy to set up, easy to use, and you can take it with you anywhere, whether you're indoors or outdoors. Let's go ahead and see what this sounds like. So as you can hear, it's already a pretty good setup. This is something that's going to give you much better quality than the internal microphone in your mirrorless or DSLR camera. And like I mentioned before, it's not that hard. It sits on your camera, it's easy to set up, and you can take it with you anywhere. All right, so we're outside right now, and like I said, inside, this is a great travel vlogging solution. There's a ton of noise here, a ton of wind, cars, but this microphone's only picking up what's in front of it. Yours truly. Let's go ahead and look at some of the features on this microphone. What's great with a microphone like this is that it complements the Nikon Z6 really well. It plugs in with a 1/8 jack right into the camera. You also have it on a shock mount. And what this does, it reduces the noise you would get from handling the microphone. There's a little bit of give on the microphone itself. Further, there's also a gain option, so you can actually increase the amount of total volume that the microphone is bringing in. And you can also decrease it in case you're in a really noisy environment. And premium versions of this microphone will even have a high low-pass filter that allows certain noises to get through and others not. So something like an air conditioner or a refrigerator, that annoying hum, you can actually cut that out. A microphone like this is technically called a super cardioid mic. And what that means is that it's very directional. Anything in front of it, it's going to pick up within about 10 feet. Anything to the sides, left, right, or even from behind, you're not gonna get that. So it's not great if you have multiple people on camera or if you're moving outside of the line of sight of the camera, but when you are in front in a vlogging setup or a desk setup, it's a fantastic solution. So let me take a minute here to talk about audio settings. With a camera like the Nikon Z6, you have the ability to monitor your audio, to actually see a visual representation of the sound that's being captured. And you want your levels to peak about 3/4 of the way. You never want it to hit that red bar. So this right here, your levels, you never want to get further than 3/4 of the way. If you hit that red, it means your audio is clipping, you're losing information, and you get something like this. And you don't want that in your final product. So I should also tell you to keep your audio settings in manual. You have way more control, and you can ensure your audio doesn't get clipped. You can go inside the camera, bring the levels down, or use the gain on the microphone to make sure it's within that range. Now that we have this setup done, let's go to our next. Our last solution is great if you're in front of the camera really close and within the line of sight. But what if you're gonna be further back? What if you're gonna be moving around away from the camera? This is where a lav solution comes in really handy. You can be further back from the camera, you can be moving around and still get great audio. It works pretty easily. You have a transmitter and you have a receiver. One is gonna be on your subject, one is gonna be plugged into your camera or a field recorder. And make sure when you're using this, you're on the right frequency. I know it sounds a little silly, but we've all been there before. And another thing to consider is that your cabling is plugged in correctly. There's one that goes directly to your camera or field recorder and one that actually goes into the receiver. And you want to clip this close to your mouth and point it toward the subject. If you're pointing it in any other direction, you may pick up other ambient noise that you just don't want in your final product. And keep in mind the fabric that they're wearing. If this is rustling against their clothes, you're gonna hear that in your audio. Now, a lav solution compared to our on-camera shotgun is much more professional and allows you to do more. A few things to consider though is that most of these lavs will have a mute switch on them, so making sure they're on when they need to be and off when they need to be, like when you're in the bathroom. Another thing to consider is that if you're downtown or in a place where there's a lot of radio frequencies, to monitor for the right channel. You don't want to be on something that's going to give you a lot of interference. Also, if you have multiple lavalier mics, that they're on different channels. And lastly, you might want to use something like this for interviews, but keep in mind your battery life. You don't want to run out of battery halfway through the interview. Now that we have this setup done, let's go to our final setup. What is the most professional, highest quality, natural sound that you can capture for video? Well, it'd be with something like this, a shotgun mic going into a field recorder. With a solution like this, you have something that doesn't rely on the internal audio converter of your camera. You have something that's just much higher quality, a digital audio recorder that's gonna be able to power this mic even with phantom power. With something like this, it's not as intrusive as a lavalier mic. For short films, movies, you wouldn't use a lavalier mic. You'd see the wire, it'd be hanging out, you'd be worried about continuity. You'd want something like this, something that'd be able to capture great audio and not interfere with your picture. One thing you also want to consider is where your microphone is. You want to have it as close to your subject as possible, but be sure to frame it out. So for example, on the Nikon Z6, you don't see the microphone anymore. It's framed out of the image. This gives you the flexibility to use whatever lens you want, whatever focal length you want, and still be able to capture fantastic audio. So that wraps up everything for today. Let's get back to the desk and wrap this up. So hopefully I've shown you how you can get the best possible audio for your video production. In this episode, I used the Nikon Z6 with a 24-70 f4 lens, the Rode VideoMic Pro, the Sennheiser G4 Lav Kit, the Zoom H6, and the Sennheiser MKE600. You will find the links for all of this in the description. Audio can be complex, it can be tricky, but take your time. If I can leave you with two things, make sure your camera is in manual mode so you know where your audio levels are and where they're clipping. And as you move take to take, check your levels to make sure that you're still getting great audio depending on your scene changes. There's a lot to cover in audio, more than I can fit in this episode. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to talk to our experts in store. They'd be happy to help and guide you in the right direction for your video production. Thank you guys so much for watching. Before you go, make sure you let me know what you think in the comments and what you'd like to see in a future episode. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you know when a new video comes out. My name's Gajan, this has been Henry's Calling the Shot, and I'll see you next time.